Hey everyone, I never thought I'd find myself sharing something this deeply personal online, but I've hit a breaking point. I'm Ashley, 21, and I work as an art therapy intern at a local children's hospital. This is my first time posting here, and honestly, my hands are shaking as I type this. You know how sometimes you bottle things up for so long that it starts feeling like you're drowning? That's where I am right now. I need to talk about my older sister Catherine, or Kate, as everyone calls her. She's 24, works as a marketing manager at one of those trendy tech companies in the city, and has made my life absolute hell. To understand what happened 3 days ago, you need to know what I've been dealing with. At the homecoming party. It started at this homecoming party for an old friend from high school. One of those awkward reunions where everyone pretends to care about each other's lives. I didn't want to go, but my parents, the Thompsons, insisted. They've got this idea that I'm becoming some kind of recluse, just because I prefer spending my evenings working on art therapy projects rather than dealing with Kate's endless drama. Sure, it was nice that our friend was back after studying abroad, but that wasn't the point. I wanted to skip it because of Kate. I avoid any social situation with her like it's toxic waste. And believe me, I have my reasons. I know what you're probably thinking. Here's another whiny younger sister jealous of her successful sibling. But let me paint you a picture of what it's like growing up with Kate. Picture a tech-savvy Regina George who's mastered the art of making her Instagram life look perfect while treating everyone around her like they're NPCs in her personal success story. From day one, my parents put her on this pedestal that might as well have been on Mars. That's how impossible it was to reach. While I worked hard to maintain decent grades while pursuing my passion for art therapy, she was busy being the tech prodigy who never scored below an A+. Everyone kept going on about what an inspiration she was, this amazing woman in tech, breaking glass ceilings at her fancy startup, building her personal brand on LinkedIn. But behind her perfectly curated social media presence, that's where you'd see the real Kate. The funny thing is, she's always treated me like I'm some kind of failed beta version of herself. But somehow, I'm the only one who sees through her act. Everyone else is too busy liking her blessed posts and commenting goals on her LinkedIn updates to notice how she really treats people. I've spent years trying to figure out why people worship everything Kate does. Is everyone really that easily fooled by her carefully filtered photos and inspirational captions about empowering women in tech? Or am I the only one who notices how her actions never match her posts? Sometimes I lie awake at night, scrolling through the comments on her latest, authentic Instagram story, wondering if I'm the crazy one for seeing through her perfectly crafted image. Then I remember all the cruel things she's done, all while maintaining her positive vibes only social media presence. And I know I'm not imagining things. Look, I already know what you're thinking. That I'm just another jealous younger sister who can't handle her siblings' success. Trust me, I've heard it all before. But how would you feel if every single day of your life, someone made you feel like your work with traumatized children was worthless compared to their groundbreaking marketing strategies? That's what Kate does to me. She doesn't just outshine me. She makes sure I know how insignificant my career choice is compared to hers. Her ego isn't just big, it's suffocating, like those oversaturated filters she uses on every single photo. Everyone sees her LinkedIn posts about lifting other women up, but they miss how she tears them down in real life. She doesn't just succeed, she needs to make sure everyone else feels like a failure. And let's talk about her looks, because everyone else does. Kate is the pretty Thompson sister. I've heard that phrase so many times I could scream. Her Instagram is full of perfectly posed photos, each one tagged with some startup's latest product or a trendy restaurant. Guys in tech have been falling all over themselves to date her since she started her jobs, and she treats them all like they're just another story highlight on her profile. She's had more boyfriends than I can count, but according to her public posts, none of them matched her entrepreneurial spirit. She acts like she's doing them a favor by even considering them for a feature on her Instagram grid. The way she judges people makes me sick. She's like a walking, talking LinkedIn influencer post. But instead of getting called out for it, people praise her authentic leadership style. She'll tear apart someone's career choices right to their face, but phrase it like constructive feedback for growth. She makes comments about people's jobs like she's some career guru just because she has 50K followers. The other day, she told our cousin her startup idea was brave, considering her limited technical background. Who says that? But everyone just likes and shares it because it's Kate, and Kate can do no wrong. Sometimes I fantasize about commenting the truth on one of her perfectly curated posts, but we all know who'd end up looking like the bad guy in that situation. But the worst part? Our parents. They don't hate me. No, that would be easier to deal with. Instead, they're constantly trying to mold me into a second-rate copy of Kate. Why can't you be more like your sister? Look how Kate leverages her personal brand. You should learn from how your sister networks. It's like they had their perfect tech influencer daughter and then got stuck with someone who actually wants to help people instead of just posting about it. They make me follow her on every platform like I'm some kind of social media management project she needs to fix. They genuinely believe that if I spend enough time studying her LinkedIn strategy, her success will somehow rub off on me. As if being forced to watch someone getting praised for every hashtag while you're criticized for working with troubled kids isn't bad enough. They think the solution is more exposure to her thought leadership. They call it career development, but really they're just hoping their disappointing daughter might learn something from their social media queen. The worst part is they don't even realize how much damage they're doing. They think they're helping me by sending me screenshots of her latest viral posts. Growing up, every single aspect of my life was held up against Kate's Instagram grid like some twisted measuring stick. It wasn't just big things. They picked apart everything. My comfortable work clothes. Kate would never post content in that. My focus on patient care instead of personal branding. Kate got 10K new followers without even trying. My dedication to art therapy. Why can't you do something practical like Kate's digital marketing? Family gathering scene. It wasn't just our parents either. Random relatives, family friends, neighbors. Everyone felt entitled to compare our social media presence. The absolute worst was when people would come up to me, looking all concerned, and ask, "Why don't you have as many followers as your sister?" As if I was some failed influencer experiment. But it didn't stop there. Even my colleagues got in on it. I still remember my supervisor announcing to the whole team that she expected better social media engagement from Kate's sister. I was just Kate's sister to them, never Ashley. Never the dedicated art therapy intern. Just the disappointing sequel to their favorite tech influencer. All this comparison messed me up more than I'd like to admit. My confidence destroyed. Social media presence non-existent. I gradually stopped posting anything because I couldn't handle the constant reminders of how my content didn't measure up to Kate's perfectly edited life. And relationships? That's a whole other level of mess. I'm 21, and I've never had a boyfriend, never even been kissed. And before you start thinking I'm just being picky or playing hard to get, it's not that simple. Years of being told your authentic work with children isn't as valuable as your sister's viral marketing campaigns kind of kills any desire to put yourself out there. How are you supposed to connect with someone when you've been trained to see yourself as the inferior version of someone else's Instagram feed? Every time a guy shows even slight interest, all I can think is, they'll probably follow Kate once they see her profile. It's pathetic, I know, but that's what happens when your entire identity has been reduced to being someone's less influential sister. At the recent gathering. So back to this gathering I mentioned earlier. Everyone's there, catching up, having a good time. Kate, of course, immediately gets surrounded by her tech bros and marketing crowd, while I end up doing what I do best. Blend into the background like I'm one of my patients' therapeutic art projects. After a few hours, we all sat in this big circle for the welcome back celebration. And that's when it really hit me how much of an outsider I was. Looking around that circle was like scrolling through a LinkedIn feed where everyone's either launching a startup, joining a unicorn company, or excited to announce something. Some were in serious relationships. Others were exploring opportunities, whatever that means in dating language. And then there was me, the only person who couldn't even manage to start a conversation without feeling like I was interrupting someone's Instagram story. And right in the middle of it all, Kate and her boyfriend Michael, looking like they just stepped out of a TechCrunch photo shoot. He's this brilliant CTO of a rising startup, tall, Harvard educated, and they're that perfect hash couple goals that makes you want to delete all your social media accounts. Michael's the kind of guy whose LinkedIn posts go viral just for saying good morning, and Kate absolutely loves it. She loves that people envy their power couple status because it gives her one more thing to showcase on her feed, one more way to remind everyone, especially me, that she's crushing it in both her professional and personal life, while I'm still trying to figure out how to make art therapy look impressive on social media. The moment I'd been dreading finally came when one of Kate's tech friends turned to me with that fake empathetic look people get when they're about to ask something they'll definitely post about later. So, Ashley, seeing anyone or maybe interested in someone from the startup scene? Before I could even open my mouth to respond, Kate burst out laughing. Not just a normal laugh. This was the kind of laugh that would make perfect background audio for a Mean Girls TikTok. Relationships? My sister. Kate could barely get the words out between her performative laughs. You might as well ask if one of her therapy paintings is dating someone. The only relationship she has is with her hospital badge, probably crying into her art supplies every night. The worst part wasn't even her words. It was how everyone else joined in. Like my dedication to helping children was the funniest joke they'd heard all year. But Kate wasn't done. No, she was just warming up for her live audience. Let's be real here, she continued, clearly enjoying her impromptu TED Talk moment. Have you seen her Instagram? It's all finger paintings and therapy sessions. What guy in the tech scene would want to date someone whose idea of scaling is adding more crayons? She gestured at me like I was some failed startup pitch. Any man in Silicon Valley who ended up with her would basically be admitting they're okay with zero growth potential. More laughter. Every single person in that circle was laughing. Some were trying to hide it behind their phones, probably already drafting witty tweets. Others were openly recording, but they were all laughing at me. And Kate just sat there, soaking it all in like she was collecting content for her next viral post. The breakdown moment. I felt the tears coming, but that just made everything worse. Look, she's crying again, Kate announced to her live audience. Maybe instead of crying about being single, you should try improving your personal brand. Learn some actual tech skills, build a decent LinkedIn presence, maybe get a real career. She counted off each suggestion on her perfectly manicured fingers, like she was giving a masterclass in success, instead of publicly destroying me. I mean, someone might actually want to feature you in their Instagram story then. Maybe. If they're really desperate for engagement. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Kate grabbed Michael and pulled him into this dramatic kiss right there in front of everyone. It was like something out of a Silicon Valley reality show, except I was the pathetic side character meant to make the power couple look better. "See this?" she said after finally breaking away from the kiss. "This is what a real power couple looks like. This is what you could have if you weren't so stuck in your little art therapy world. You should be taking notes, little sister. I mean, look at me. I managed to land a CTO, and you can't even get a junior developer to look at your profile twice." Everyone was nodding along, completely under her spell. Some of the women were already reaching for their phones, probably drafting inspirational posts about authentic leadership and speaking your truth. "Honestly, you need to grow up," she finished, looking at me like I was some failed SHB test she had to document. "At this rate, you're going to end up alone forever, still doing art therapy with kids while the rest of us are disrupting industries. But hey, maybe that's for the best. Not everyone's cut out for success in tech, right?" I just sat there, tears running down my face, unable to say a word. The worst part, I believed her. After years of hearing this kind of thing, not just from her, but from our parents too, how could I not? They're always telling me the same things. That I need to be more like Kate. That I need to build my personal brand. That I need to pivot my career trajectory. So I just sat there, accepting what everyone clearly already knew. That I was nothing but a failed startup pitch. The bootstrapped version of perfect Kate. In that moment, surrounded by their laughter and judgment, probably being recorded for someone's Instagram story, I had never felt more alone. Later that night, when we got home that night, I tried one last time to get my parents to understand. I went to their room, still shaking from everything that happened, hoping that maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time they'd actually listen to me, see how much their perfect tech influencer was hurting me. I told them everything. How Kate had humiliated me in front of everyone. How she'd called my career choice worthless. How everyone had laughed at my dedication to helping children. You know what they did? They didn't even look up from their phones, probably too busy sharing Kate's latest LinkedIn post. My mom just sighed like I was pitching a failed product idea and said, "Kate is your older sister. She knows what's best for your career trajectory." My dad nodded along and added, "She's just trying to help you understand market dynamics." The aftermath. That's when it really hit me. They agreed with her. My own parents actually believed my work with troubled children was worthless compared to Kate's social media empire. They thought I deserved to be humiliated like that. I spent that entire night locked in my room crying until I couldn't breathe. My pillow was soaked, but I couldn't stop. I kept replaying everything in my head. The laughter, the phone's recording, Kate's smug face, my parents' dismissal. What did I do to deserve this? Was I really that horrible of a person for wanting to help kids through art? The desperate attempt. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on my therapy sessions. So I did what any desperate person would do. I downloaded every professional networking app I could find. LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, AngelList, all of them. I spent hours creating profiles, trying to make my art therapy work sound more tech-adjacent, thinking maybe if I could just rebrand myself as some kind of digital wellness innovator, it would prove to Kate and everyone else that I wasn't completely worthless. But guess what? Total failure. Every single connection either ghosted me or turned out to be some crypto bro trying to get me to join their NFT project. It was like the universe was confirming everything Kate had said about me. I even started following her stupid advice. I signed up for coding boot camps, spent hours watching tech influencer videos, bought expensive business casual clothes I couldn't really afford. Every morning I'd wake up early to work on my personal brand, desperately trying to transform myself into someone worthy of Silicon Valley's attention. someone more like Kate. I started counting my followers, watching every engagement metric, scrutinizing my profile for hours. All because my sister had convinced everyone, including me, that my actual work helping children wasn't good enough. But nothing was ever enough for Kate. She watched me trying to improve myself with this smirk on her face, like she was enjoying watching me struggle. One day, while I was getting ready to attend a tech meetup, she leaned against my doorway and said, "You know this pivot is pointless, right? You could spend years trying to be like me, but let's be real. You'll always be the artsy therapist who never scales. Nobody in tech is going to waste their development cycles on you." The breaking point. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my laptop at her perfectly curated face. Instead, I just went back to my room and punched my pillow until my knuckles hurt. That's what brought me here to this community. I'm completely lost. Every time I try to stand up for myself, I get knocked back down. Every time I try to make my work seem more tech relevant, I'm told it's pointless. My sister hates me. My parents don't support my career choice. And I'm starting to believe everyone who says I'm unworthy of Silicon Valley's attention. So please, I need to know. What am I supposed to do? Should I just accept that Kate will always be the better one? Should I give up on ever finding someone who might actually value my work with children? Is this really all I deserve from life? Being the pathetic shadow of my perfect tech influencer sister? Update 1. 1 month later. Hey everyone, first I want to thank you all for the incredible support on my last post. Your comments made me feel seen for the first time in forever. Before I get into what happened, I need to address something. Some people in the comments called me an attention seeker. Really? You think after 21 years of being emotionally abused and staying quiet about my passion for art therapy, this is about attention? Let me be clear. If I wanted attention, I wouldn't have spent my entire life swallowing my pride while Kate walked all over me, posting about empowering women while tearing me down. I wouldn't have stayed silent every time she humiliated my career choice. Trust me, there were plenty of times I wanted to expose her fake, authentic leadership posts, but I didn't. So don't you dare call me an attention seeker when you have no idea what it's like living with someone like her. The discovery. Now for the real update, and trust me, it's big. It's been a month since my last post, and I discovered something that's going to make all those Kate worshippers choke on their morning coffee. Little Miss Tech Influencer isn't so perfect after all. Remember how I mentioned her boyfriend Michael, the startup CTO she loves featuring in her #power couple posts? Well, for the past few weeks, Kate has been getting these elaborate gift deliveries and expensive tech gadgets. She's been showcasing them all over her Instagram, making sure everyone sees them, claiming they're all from Michael. My parents ate it up, of course. They love Michael. He's exactly the kind of successful, Harvard-educated tech leader they think their precious daughter deserves. They never questioned it, because why would they? Kate would never lie about her authentic relationship journey, right? Michael used to come over all the time for their home office couple content, but lately his visits have gotten less and less frequent. People started noticing, but no one really said anything. Kate had some excuse ready every time. He's busy with a product launch. He's meeting investors, whatever. The revelation. I didn't think much of it either until yesterday. I was walking past Kate's home office setup. The door was cracked open, and I saw something that made me stop dead in my tracks. There was Kate, all cuddled up with some guy who definitely wasn't Michael. They were sitting at her perfectly arranged Instagram backdrop wall, and she was giggling that fake little laugh she does when she's recording content. When she saw me standing there, the look on her face was priceless. For once in her life, Miss Perfect Tech Influencer looked terrified. The guy looked confused, and Kate practically shoved him away from her ring light setup. I asked her what the hell was going on, and that's when she spun this story about how she and Michael had consciously uncoupled ages ago. Funny how that never made it to her feed. And this was Chris, her new strategic partnership. According to her carefully crafted narrative, she was just trying to heal her entrepreneurial heart. Right. Because nothing helps heal a broken heart like secretly dating a venture capitalist while pretending to still be with your CTO boyfriend. Let me tell you something about this whole heartbreak situation. It's complete BS. I've seen Kate actually upset before, like when she lost 1,000 followers in one day. And this isn't it. She's walking around the house humming to herself, spending hours perfecting her LinkedIn profile, and practically glowing every time she gets another delivery. Those fancy tech gadgets I mentioned? Turns out they're all from Chris. He's apparently some hotshot investment banker trying to break into tech, and he's trying to win her over with the latest Apple products and startup swag. Must be nice having multiple guys fighting to be featured on your Instagram while telling your sister she'll die alone managing art therapy sessions. The threats begin. I actually felt sorry for Michael at first. I mean, getting dumped by someone like Kate must be rough, right? But then I started thinking about how weird this whole situation was. Why hadn't she posted about their breakup? Why was she keeping Chris such a big secret when she usually can't wait to tag everyone she meets? That's when Kate cornered me in my therapy supply room one night. She put on that fake authenticity coach voice she uses for her LinkedIn videos, asking me to keep quiet about Chris. I just need time to align our personal brands, she said, like she was planning her next viral post. I'll announce it when my engagement metrics are ready. The manipulation. But here's the thing. It wasn't really a request. Every time she went out with Chris, she'd send me these passive-aggressive messages about keeping my mouth shut. They weren't friendly DMs either. They were straight-up threats, always ending with something like, "Remember what happened last time you questioned my authenticity?" Or, "It would be shame if mom and dad found out about," insert something she could use against me. Classic Kate, always finding new ways to control the narrative. And what choice did I have? She spent years making sure everyone sees me as the pathetic, artsy sister. If I tried to expose her secret, she'd find a way to make me look like the bad guy again. So I kept quiet, like I always do. The suspicious notifications. Then something happened that made everything even weirder. I was in Kate's perfectly staged home office, borrowing a phone charger. She makes such a big deal whenever I need to borrow her content creation tools. And her latest iPhone Pro Max was just lying there on her standing desk. She was in the bathroom, probably doing her hourly LinkedIn profile check or whatever. Suddenly, her phone starts lighting up with notifications. A lot of them. And guess whose name I saw? Michael. Not just one message either. Multiple notifications, all from her supposedly consciously uncoupled ex-boyfriend. I know I shouldn't have looked at her phone, but after years of her going through my art therapy sketches and using them against me, I figured I owed her one. Unfortunately, her phone was locked, so I couldn't read the messages, but it definitely got me thinking. Why would her ex be blowing up her phone like that if they really had this clean, social media-friendly break? Wouldn't he have unfollowed her by now? Something isn't adding up here. Maybe he's trying to get her back. Maybe they're still collaborating on content, but this is Kate we're talking about. She doesn't stay friends with exes. She usually spends months writing LinkedIn articles about learning from failed partnerships after a breakup, but she hasn't posted a single think piece about Michael. Not one. In fact, she barely mentions him at all anymore, which is weird considering how much she used to tag him in her #couplegoals content. Past relationship patterns. I can't prove anything yet, but my gut is telling me there's more to this story. A lot more. I need to get this off my chest because something about this whole situation isn't sitting right with me. Those of you who commented on my last post know what kind of person Kate is, but let me paint you an even clearer picture of how she usually handles breakups. This is a girl who once spent 3 months writing viral Medium posts about how her startup mentor boyfriend was emotionally unavailable because he forgot to like her TouchCrunch feature. She turned a guy asking for space into a 6-week LinkedIn series where she was the resilient female founder. One time, a guy broke up with her because he was moving to Silicon Valley for a Series A round, and she somehow twisted it into him being intimidated by strong women in tech. That's just who Kate is. She doesn't just end relationships. She turns them into content marketing opportunities where she's always the empowered protagonist. She'll post cryptic quotes about pivot strategies on Twitter for weeks. She'll accidentally run into his startup teammates so she can tell her side of the story first. She'll show up at networking events with perfectly curated, just cried makeup and pick at her salad until someone asks what's wrong, then spend 2 hours detailing every single thing the guy did wrong. Our mom usually has to take a week off work just to manage her social media crisis responses after breakups. But with Michael, complete radio silence. No tearful Instagram stories. No passive-aggressive Twitter threads. No dramatic LinkedIn articles about growth through adversity. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. This is the same girl who threw a 3-day personal branding workshop because a guy she went on 2 coffee meetings with didn't engage with her content fast enough. But we're supposed to believe she quietly broke up with her perfect tech power couple match. The guy she's been featuring in her sponsored content for months and just moved on without making sure her entire network knew how it aligned with her personal growth journey. The suspicious behavior. And let's talk about how she's handling this thing with Chris. Kate doesn't do subtle. She's never kept a relationship off her social media. She usually wants everyone to know she's exploring synergies and has multiple growth opportunities. But suddenly she's Miss Stealth mode, sneaking around, making threats to keep people quiet. This is the same person who once announced at our grandmother's birthday party that she'd had a mentorship coffee chat with a local tech journalist. A coffee chat, not even a real interview, just coffee. The growing suspicion. I know everyone's going to say I'm obsessing over this, that I'm trying to find problems where there aren't any. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am overthinking this whole thing. But I've spent my entire life watching Kate manipulate situations and people to build her personal brand. I know her content strategy by heart. And this isn't it. This isn't normal Kate behavior. Something bigger is going on here, and I can feel it in my gut. So what do you guys think? Am I reading too much into this, or does something seem off to you too? Because right now I feel like I'm sitting on a ticking time bomb, just waiting for everything to blow up in everyone's perfectly filtered feeds. Update 2. The shocking discovery. Hey everyone, I honestly thought I wouldn't be posting again so soon, but holy. You won't believe what I just discovered. Before I get into the bomb I'm about to drop, I want to thank you all for the amazing support on my last post. Your comments and messages have shown me that I'm not crazy for questioning Kate's perfect tech influencer facade. First, a quick personal update that some of you have been asking about. I actually started seeing someone recently. The unworthy art therapist finally found someone who sees her value. He's nothing like the guys Kate features in her content, no startup swag or tech credentials. Instead, he actually listens when I talk about my work with children, remembers the little details about my art therapy projects, and treats me with real respect. Not the fake kind Kate's tech boss show when the cameras are rolling. It's early days, but for the first time in my life, I don't feel like someone's settling for the non-tech sister. It's nice to finally understand what actual connection feels like, not the superficial networking Kate is always bragging about. The cafe scene. But that's not why I'm here today. What I'm about to tell you makes everything else look like a failed seed round. Last week, I was at this little artisan coffee shop downtown, just picking up my usual morning brew before heading to my therapy sessions. I was heading to the parking lot when I passed by the window, one of those cozy corners where tech bros love to take their grinding on that startup life photos. And guess who I saw? Kate. She wasn't alone. She was with Michael. Yes, that Michael. The same Michael who supposedly consciously uncoupled from her startup journey ages ago. The same Michael she was pivoting away from for her personal growth. The truth emerges. They weren't just having coffee either. They were holding hands across the table, looking very much like a couple who never stopped creating couple goals content at all. I literally stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and stared. People were probably wondering what was wrong with me, but I couldn't move. Remember how in my last post, I said something felt off about this whole situation? Well, this confirmed every single suspicion I had. They definitely didn't look like two people who had consciously uncoupled. In fact, they looked more couple-y than ever. He was doing that thing where he plays with her expensive tech brand rings while they talk. The same thing I've seen him do 100 times before when they were officially together. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were discussing a co-branded content strategy. Maybe this was some kind of reconciliation meeting. But something in my gut told me this wasn't a reunion. They looked too comfortable, too familiar. This wasn't two people finding their way back to each other. This was two people who had never parted. The late-night visitor. But wait, it gets worse. That same night, guess who I saw sneaking into Kate's perfectly lit home office? Chris. The same Chris she claimed was helping her move forward from Michael. I stood there in the hallway, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Either this was the world's messiest pivot strategy, or my perfect sister was running parallel user testing with both guys at once. The investigation. I couldn't just ignore this anymore. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started keeping tabs on Kate's actual reality versus her social media presence. For the next few days, I watched her like a hawk. I noted when she left the house, who she was with, when she came back. I even convinced her to share her location on Find My iPhone for personal safety features. What I discovered made me sick to my stomach. Every single day she was meeting Michael, coffee dates disguised as strategy sessions, lunch meetings pretending to be startup mentoring, shopping trips masked as personal brand development. They were together constantly, acting exactly like they always had. No sign of any conscious uncoupling there. But then, like clockwork, Chris would show up in the evenings. He'd slip into her home office when our parents were asleep, thinking no one knew about their late-night networking sessions. Living a double life. She was living a double life and doing it so smoothly that I almost had to admire her content strategy skills. But here's where things get really interesting. In the middle of all this drama, I noticed something else weird happening. Sarah, Kate's ride-or-die best friend since middle school, and her go-to photographer for LinkedIn headshots, had suddenly vanished from her tagged photos. Now you have to understand. Kate and Sarah were inseparable. They had one of those friendships where they co-created content together, had a million inside jokes about tech culture, and ran their personal brands in tandem. They posted about each other constantly, had weekly creator collaboration sessions, the whole tech besties forever deal. But suddenly, radio silence. No more matching Instagram posts. No more tagging each other in TechCrunch articles. No more Saturday brunch stories. They even unfollowed each other on every platform. In Kate's social media world, that's basically a declaration of war. The truth from Sarah. I've always had a decent relationship with Sarah. Unlike most of Kate's tech circle, who treat me like I'm not even worthy of their LinkedIn network, Sarah actually talks to me like I'm a real person. She's always been kind, always listened when I needed someone to talk to about my therapy work. So after watching this weird silence between them for a week, I decided to go straight to the source. I showed up at Sarah's photography studio, which was probably pretty bold of me. When she opened the door, she looked shocked to see me standing there. The first words out of her mouth weren't, "Hello," or "How are you?" They were, "Did Kate send you to get content?" There was something in her voice when she said my sister's name. Not anger exactly, but something close to it. The revelation. When I told her no, she actually looked relieved, which told me everything I needed to know. Whatever was going on between them was serious. Sarah didn't even let me finish my question about what was wrong. She just started laughing. Not a happy laugh, but the kind that comes when something is so messed up, it's almost funny. "Your sister," she said, shaking her head. "Your sister is pure evil. She deserves everything that's coming to her metrics." The truth comes out. Coming from someone who's defended Kate's authentic content for years, this was huge. That's when Sarah spilled everything. Turns out my perfect sister has been running the longest A/B test I've ever heard of. Remember how I said the timing of her relationship with Chris seemed weird? Well, according to Sarah, there was never a breakup with Michael. Not even close. Kate has been running parallel user tests from the start. She's been dating Michael publicly, keeping her perfect tech couple image intact, while secretly beta testing a relationship with Chris on the side. Sarah told me she'd known about it for weeks, but kept quiet to protect their personal brand alliance. Classic Sarah. Always trying to see the best in people, even Kate. But then Kate did something that crossed every ethical guideline. She actually bragged to Sarah about it, sat there over their content planning session, and proudly explained how she was optimizing her relationship funnel by dating both guys. When Sarah tried to be the voice of reason, pointing out how wrong it was, and how badly both guys would be hurt when they found out, Kate just laughed it off. "This is totally normal in tech," she said, like she was explaining basic SEO to a child. "Everyone runs multiple tests. They just don't document it." When Sarah stood her ground and refused to support this toxic growth strategy, Kate turned on her, called her a legacy platform for not backing her up, accused her of being jealous, told her real tech allies would support her scale-up strategy. 20 years of friendship thrown away because Sarah dared to suggest that cheating on two guys wasn't proper A/B testing. The irony. My perfect sister, the one who spent years making me feel worthless for focusing on art therapy instead of tech, was literally juggling two boyfriends like some kind of twisted product manager. The irony is almost too perfect. All those times she humiliated me about being unworthy of Silicon Valley. And here she is proving she doesn't even know what real relationships look like. All those lectures about how I need to be more like her. Yeah, I think I'll pass on being a relationship scammer, thanks. So now I'm sitting on this nuclear data breach of information, and I don't know what to do with it. What do you guys think? Is it finally time for little Miss Perfect Influencer to face the consequences of her actions? Update 3. 2 months later. Hey everyone, it's been about 2 months since my last update. And honestly, I never thought I'd be back here, but after reading all your comments and support, I knew I owed you the finale to this tech startup drama. And trust me, it's one hell of an exit strategy. First, I want to thank everyone who's been following this saga since the beginning. Your support and advice helped me more than you'll ever know. To everyone who told me to stand up for myself, who said I deserved better than being Kate's beta test, this one's for you. The plan. So remember how I ended my last post asking what I should do about Kate's little two-timing situation? Well, after years of being the quiet sister, the one who always took the high road while Kate walked all over me with her designer tech conference heels, I finally decided enough was enough. Perfect Kate, who spent years making me feel worthless for choosing art therapy over tech, was juggling two high-profile guys like some twisted product roadmap. The sister who loved to preach about authentic leadership was running the biggest relationship scam I'd ever seen, and for once in my life, I had the power to execute a perfect pivot. Here's what went down. Our parents' 36th wedding anniversary was coming up, and everyone was planning this big celebration. We're talking luxury venue, catered food, the kind of event Kate loves to use for her family first content. She was in charge of the guest list because, of course, she was anything to maintain control of the user experience. I noticed she'd only invited Michael, her official boyfriend, leaving Chris in dark mode like usual. That's when it hit me. This was my chance. The perfect opportunity to show everyone exactly who Kate really was behind her carefully curated feed. The execution. I spent weeks planning it. Every detail had to be perfect because I knew I'd only get one shot at this deployment. Kate had spent years carefully building her image as the perfect daughter, the perfect sister, the perfect tech girlfriend. She convinced everyone that I was the bug in the system, the one who couldn't scale her life properly. Well, it was time to show everyone what perfect really looked like under the hood. The setup. The hardest part was getting both guys to show up without Kate finding out. I couldn't just send them calendar invites. That would be too obvious. No, this had to be handled with the same precision Kate uses for her content strategy. This had to come from Kate herself. Sarah was absolutely crucial in pulling this off. She still had both guys' contact information from all those startup networking events Kate used to organize. We crafted these perfect invitations, making sure they looked exactly like the ones Kate had sent out. We even copied her writing style, all those stupid buzzwords she uses, and her signature, excited to sync up, at the end. Sarah sent Michael's invitation, and I handled Chris's. Neither of them suspected a thing. Why would they? As far as they knew, they were each Kate's one and only beta tester. The moment of truth. I stationed myself near the entrance, watching every person who walked in. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone, waiting for Sarah's text confirming both guys were on their way. Then it happened. I swear someone up there must have been running some serious A/B testing because they literally walked in within minutes of each other. Michael came in first, looking all polished in his startup founder uniform. Exactly the kind of guy Kate loves to showcase in her content. Then Chris walked in, and I watched him scan the room, probably looking for his secret girlfriend. This was my moment. I walked up to them, playing the perfect hostess, and said, "Oh, you must be looking for Kate. Let me introduce you two, since you're both so special to my sister's growth strategy." The next few minutes played out better than any viral video Kate had ever orchestrated. They did that typical tech bro thing, shaking hands, making small talk about valuations and market trends. Michael asked Chris how he knew the family, probably just being polite. That's when Chris said, "Oh, I'm Kate's boyfriend. We recently started dating." I wish I had Sarah's camera ready for Michael's face. You know that moment in pitch meetings when someone realizes their entire business model is flawed? That's what it looked like. His perfectly practiced startup smile froze, then slowly disappeared as his brain tried to process what he just heard. The confrontation. I'm sorry, what did you just say? Michael's voice was so quiet, like he was hoping he'd misheard the pitch. But Chris just doubled down. He pulled out his phone and showed Michael a picture of him and Kate together. It was pretty intimate too. Clearly not just a networking event photo. Michael stared at that photo like he was trying to find some way to debug it. This has to be some kind of error in the matrix, he said, but I could hear in his voice that he was starting to realize it wasn't. That's when Michael lost it. He yanked out his phone and pulled up his own set of photos, intimate pictures of him and Kate from just days ago, complete with their usual tech power couple hashtags. Now it was Chris's turn to look like his series, a funding had just fallen through. The two guys just stood there, holding up their phones like competing pitch decks, both realizing they'd been played for fools. The breakdown. While this was happening, I was looking around the room for Kate. I finally spotted her near the sponsored refreshments table, and I swear I've never seen her look so terrified. My perfect sister, who always had an A/B tested response for everything, was standing there like her entire platform had crashed. Her face had gone completely white, and for once in her life, she wasn't reaching for her phone to document the moment. The great Kate, frozen in place, watching her carefully constructed reality show collapse in real time. When she finally managed to move, she walked toward us like she was heading to her final board meeting. I'd seen Kate fake her way out of countless situations before, but this time was different. Her face was a mask of pure guilt as she tried to stammer out some pivot strategy, but before she could even get a full sentence out, Michael threw his invitation right in her face. "You lying, cheating piece of," he shouted, forgetting all about his usual polished tech founder demeanor. The background music stopped. The networking conversations died. Every single person at our parents' anniversary party turned to watch the show. Our parents came rushing over, probably hoping to prevent a PR crisis at their perfect party. Mom was already starting her "let's take this offline" routine, but it was way too late for damage control. The fallout. Years of Kate's carefully curated content strategy and lies were coming undone in front of everyone who had ever double-tapped her perfect posts. And what did Kate do? What did my strong, confident, authentic leadership sister do when finally confronted with her own actions? She burst into tears. Not quiet, dignified tears, full on ugly crying, her expensive waterproof mascara running down her face. She tried to play the victim, of course. That's her go-to growth strategy. But this time nobody was buying her pivot. The whole room erupted in laughter. The same kind of cruel engagement she directed at my art therapy career so many times before. All these people who had spent years liking her #boss babe posts were suddenly seeing the real Kate, and they were loving the unfiltered content. Michael and Chris weren't done either. They took turns laying out every lie she'd told them, every time she'd played them against each other without them knowing. They called her every name in the Tech Bros Handbook, but my favorite was when they called her a social climber who opens her DMs for clout, the exact phrase she'd used to describe other women she looked down on. The final scene. Both guys dumped her right there in front of everyone. No private Zoom call. No chance to control the narrative later. Just public, humiliating rejection from both of her beta testers at once. The aftermath was almost better than the main event. Mom and Dad finally had to face who their perfect tech influencer daughter really was. When they confronted her, Kate came up with the lamest pivot I've ever heard. She was testing market fit with multiple options. "That's right, miss. I'm so much better than everyone," claims she couldn't decide between two men because she was optimizing her options. The same sister who spent years telling me I wasn't worthy of even one relationship was juggling two guys because she was maximizing her potential returns. The irony was completely lost on her growth mindset. The aftermath. The party turned into a total disaster, but like the best kind of viral moment. People were huddled in corners, whispering and recording, probably already drafting their hot takes. All these years of my parents parading Kate around like some kind of unicorn startup had backfired spectacularly. The humiliation must have been too much for her personal brand, because 3 days after the party, Kate just disappeared, packed her MacBook Pro, and left town without telling anyone where she was pivoting to. No goodbye post, no explanation tweet, just gone like a failed startup. The resolution. Mom and Dad are pretty torn up about it, of course. They're sad their golden child turned out to be vaporware, but I think they're finally starting to understand how toxic their user acquisition strategy was. They haven't compared me to her once since she left, which is a nice change. They even started showing up to my art therapy exhibitions and actually asking about my work with children. The aftermath. I couldn't have done any of this without you guys. Your support, your advice, your encouragement. It gave me the strength to finally deploy my own strategy. Special shout out to Sarah, who turned out to be a real friend when I needed one most. We've actually gotten really close since all this went down. It's nice having someone who sees the real me, not just Kate's unscalable sister. As for me, remember that guy I mentioned I was seeing? Things are going really well. It's so different being in a relationship where I'm valued for who I am, not constantly compared to someone's performance metrics. He knows the whole story and has never once made me feel like my work with children isn't meaningful. Epilogue. So this is me signing off. Kate is gone, and honestly, good riddance. Maybe some time away from her platform will teach her how to be a decent human being instead of just playing one on LinkedIn. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and remember, karma might take her time, but she always delivers in the end. Just like those notification alerts Kate used to be so obsessed with. And you know what's funny? In the end, it was my art therapy training that helped me understand Kate's behavior patterns and see through her perfectly filtered facade. Turns out all those hours spent helping children express their true feelings weren't such a waste after all. Sometimes the best disruption comes from simply being authentic. No A/B testing required.